Chapter 101, Strange Space and the End. I was very busy this morning, so I didn't update it in time, and the rest of the chapters will be sent out later today by the brilliance of the wand. The first sight of the statue when I arrived at the small circular place, the rotten smell around it proved that this was the place where the basilisk rested. The light in his hand filled the entire space, and there was nothing special except for some excrement left by the basilisk. Walking slowly to the bottom, a grey stone wall blocked the way. Ryanya reached out and touched the stone wall. Although the surface seemed to be made of stone, some tentacles were slightly warm, and the surface was slightly smoother. These subtle differences were difficult to detect with the naked eye. This design is very similar to the stone door of Slytherin. The edge of the stone door is usually divided with special materials, and these materials will echo well with the magic. So Chazwanid gently tapped the stone wall, and the magic power covered the stone wall like flowing water, and silver lines like moonlight emerged from the stone wall, outlining a small stone door with a paragraph written on it. Prove to me the purity of your bloodline. Sure enough, there are other things hidden inside the statue. But look at the sentence on the door. It's really a strong Slytherin style. Does the so-called bloodline purity refer to Salazar's heir status, or a pure blood wizard if you want Salazar's heir, Ryan, to say that he doesn't have this ability? If he is pure blood, he can give it a try. Ryan's magic power lightly scratched his fingers, and the blood dripped on the stone gate and turned into a golden trickle, and then covered the entire stone gate's lines. As a result, the stone door made a sour magic friction sound, and slowly opened backwards, revealing a deep corridor. There were no torches on the stone walls on both sides of the corridor, but the stone walls themselves exuded fluorescent green, turning the corridor into turquoise, which looked particularly eerie. Well, they are all here. It would be too embarrassing to stop here. The deep corridor is long, narrow and empty, spiraling to a place deeper in the ground, and I don't know how long it took to reach the end, and even the sense of the passage of time has undergone subtle changes. It was a sunken cave, and a beautiful stone platform, much like the one used for the Bible in the church. The upper and lower four pillars can no longer find any traces of organs or magical structures, so this is the secret room left by Salazar. Is it the real secret? Zaya walked to the stone platform with some curiosity. Groove. From left to right, there are a regular octagonal groove the size of half a palm, a groove square enough to accommodate a book, and an irregular groove. The first two have been emptied, and someone should have taken them, but the last groove has been lying there quietly. It is a fragment of the Slytherin Academy flag, and a python seems to be staring at Zaya. Look. Char looked at the fragment carefully. This should be the corner of the Hogwarts school badge that belongs to Slytherin, right? Of course, Ryan didn't dare to touch it directly. God knows if there is any powerful black magic on it. So he picked up the wand and fiddled with it for a long time until it was confirmed that it was really just an ordinary shard. When Zaya carefully picked it up wearing protective gloves, the surface of the fragment was almost imperceptibly flashed with silky brilliance, and the hand that picked it up sank. The material of the shards is neither copper nor gold nor stone, and the small volume has a very heavy weight. The other two things seem to have been taken by Voldemort. Just don't know what they are. Ryanya shook his head and put the fragment into his storage bag. It was no easy task to get here. Not only did you need a Parseltonian to open the secret room, but also to solve the problem of the giant snake, and even the blood screening on the door was a headache. Everything here is by no means naturally formed, and almost no trace of magic can be noticed. Builder's ingenious level of magic. For example, on the stone platform in front of him, the exquisite magic power on it reminds Ryanya of the defensive strength of the washstand at the entrance of the secret room. So there are 9 out of 10 that Salazar really wants to stay here. The basilisk or the Chamber of Secrets. In the end, it is all to protect this. And why didn't Voldemort take this inconspicuous piece? Perhaps it hides more secrets than imagined. However, when the last thing in this cave was taken away, the scene in front of him began to change. The caved-in was gradually filled up, and finally swallowed up by the void, as if the space in front of him was retreating. Seeing this, Ryan had to go back. The speed of space retreat was not very fast, enough for Ryan to rush back to the secret room. When Ryan crossed the cyan corridor again and crossed the stone gate, the corridor behind him completely disappeared after about 10 seconds, and the stone gate disappeared, leaving only the most ordinary stone wall. I didn't expect that behind this stone gate is an extended independent small space, and the things on the stone platform seemed to be the key to maintaining the stability of the small space. If it wasn't for that strange shard still in the storage bag, Char would almost suspect that it was just a dream. Strangeness. In order to confirm the time, Chayat took a pocket watch with him. It stands to reason that there is still one day before he destroys the diary in another timeline, but the stopwatch on the pocket watch that records the number of days has already turned 1, and time has elapsed. The speed is much faster than that of Char in the stone statue. It should be half an hour before I accompany Punlo to the cafeteria, and I have to deal with his soul fragments. Jumping out of the stone statue of Salazar, the golden flame cage is still burning in the center of the secret room. Ryan's finger lightly moved, and the originally closed walls of the flame cage became streaks of fire, where Riddle's soul could not move, and his face was very ugly. "Looks like you've been pretty good during this time," Ryan said. "By the way, I went to the interior of the Salazar statue and saw some things west. Don't know if that's why you're so nervous about the back room." Riddle's soul is already scattered, and his weak voice seems to drift away at any time. "Damn guy, you are not qualified to step in there." I don't know if I'm eligible, but it turned out that I went in, and it should have completely disappeared there. Okay, Char stared at Riddle. "You feel it too. The part of your split soul has also been destroyed, and it's your turn." Originally, after Char had destroyed the part of the soul in the diary, the basilisk was instructed by another part of the soul in the secret room to attack Hermione and Punlo. The thing that Ryan never wanted to experience again has finally completed its reversal. "You actually?" Hearing Zaya's words, Riddle almost shouted out. His eyes were full of resentment. But Ryan didn't want to listen to his clamor at all. The 7 Horcruxes and his own master soul were only an eighth of Voldemort's soul, and there were still more days to settle communication with him in the future. "Goodbye Voldemort. We'll meet again." Ryan snapped his fingers lightly, and the originally stable flame cage burned violently, and the fire of the sky, which was extremely destructive to the soul and darkness, burned Riddle's soul in an instant, and finally turned into little sparks, floating in the air. In the secret room. Chapter 102 made you wait for a long time. The last part of the soul in Riddle's diary disappeared completely, and the chamber returned to peace. What is this?" In the dimness, there was a little sparkle in the body of the basilisk. Ryan approached to check. A white bead the size of a fist was lying there. Its color is pure like milk, and at the same time has a faint fragrance, which is incompatible with the terrifying appearance of the basilisk. "Isn't this something similar to Naiden?" Ryan looked strange. "This lesson is just from the surface. You can already feel its rich vitality. Ignore this for now. I have to quickly return to the original timeline. Since the Chamber of Secrets extends down from a long and narrow pipe, if you want to return to the normal ground, you have to use Alimagus again, with the help of the flying ability in the form of a small golden dragon." As the entrance to the secret room opened and closed automatically, Ryan finally left the pipe and returned to the bathroom, which was still so deserted. "There are 10 minutes left." Char put on the invisibility cloak and walked outside the bathroom, waiting quietly in the corridor. The students who came and went were still laughing and laughing, and the night outside Hogwarts was still peaceful and peaceful. A pair of young men and women's voices came softly from a distance. Okay, I'll go first. I'll be right back." "Darling, it's just that I haven't heard this familiar voice for a few days. but I can't help but feel sour when I hear it again. Punlo walked into the bathroom with a smile like before, and Ryanya took off the invisibility cloak in front of him and met the other self. The other Ryanya was stunned for a moment, then nodded, as if to understand something. The figures of the two overlapped, and from this moment on, a new timeline began. A few minutes later, Punlo came out of the bathroom with some water droplets on her forehead. Wait a long time. Ryan smiled lightly. No, I should have told you to wait. Punlo was a little strange, stretched out his hand and touched Ryanya's forehead. It's normal. Why did you feel dizzy after I went for a while? Ryanya smiled even more. He pulled Punlo into his arms and hugged her tightly from behind. Because I miss you. Punlo's pretty face was blushing, and he struggled a few times symbolically, and then leaned against Ryan's chest as if resigned. Don't, although there is no one here, I would be very embarrassed if someone saw it. Punlo, let me take you to see the stars. Zaya covered the two with an invisibility cloak, dragged her and ran out of Hogwarts secretly. Ryan, you actually want to take me out of school? What's the matter? Life without escaping school is incomplete. Or you don't want to? Punlo's clear eyes were a little excited. I always think it should be very exciting, because there is still more than half a day before Chaya will return to use the time converter, and Chaya will not officially return until noon tomorrow. But Punlo is different. Her fate has changed at the moment. She and Ryanya are both characters who did not belong to the original timeline. If it wasn't for the possibility of being discovered, Cha should have used the door key on Punlo's neck to teleport directly to the theme store in Diagon Alley. And Ryanya didn't want to wait until tomorrow, so Ryanya chose to meet Punlo alone at this time, as long as neither of them were seen by others. Sure enough, the invisibility cloak is still easy to use. The perfect invisibility effect cannot be cracked by anyone with a spell, or detected by sight. Thank you very much, Harry. God knows how painful it would be to not have this invisibility cloak, and I will repay you when I go back. Sharia pulled Punlo carefully through the crowd, and the two walked outside of Hogwarts Castle. The grass in front of them was shimmering, and the light was sprinkled on the stone walls of the castle, making Hogwarts Castle more soft and beautiful. There are no traces of the students until here. After all, there are very few dishonest people like Harry and others. Most of the students will strictly abide by the school rules and cannot easily leave the castle. Seeing Zaya taking off the invisibility cloak, Punlo asked curiously, "Did you invent this?" Ryanya shook his head. "This is Harry's thing. I borrowed it." Punlo suddenly looked bad. "Why do you have this kind of thing? If you use this dress to do bad things, then..." Ryan exerted light force to bring Punlo closer, and the two of them pressed their bodies together in front of each other. Under the moonlight, Ryan's face was more handsome, as if it was a jade sculpture. This dress is of course meant to be used for bad things. Like Ryan's palm gently dragged Punlo's side face. Punlo looked at Ryan's eyes a little blurry, then closed his eyes and raised his forehead slightly, as if he was expecting something. The two got closer and closer, and finally their shadows overlapped. Just a cloud drifted by and the moon became hazy after a long time. Zaya fiddled with Punlo's beautiful brown curly hair with a half-smiling smile. "From now on, we will often do such bad things." Punlo lowered her head. Her voice was barely audible. The temperature at night was not too high, and Zaya's magic wrapped Punlo gently so that she would not feel cold. The two walked slowly to the edge of the forbidden forest holding hands. From here, Ryanya could apparel with Punlo. "Come on, I'll show you the night at my house." Punlo was a little puzzled, and saw Zaya holding Punlo's hand tightly, and Punlo only felt the world revolved in front of his eyes, and he came to a strange place. This is a quaint castle, not as large as Hogwarts, but it is more ancient and precious. The two of them are in the pavilion at the top of the castle, looking out at the calm Lake Windermere. There are sparkling waters. "Welcome to my home, Star Fort." Shira took Punlo's hand and walked to the center of the pavilion. It was like the center of the entire universe. From above, every star in the sky was so bright and clear. Punlo looked at the sky with joy. It's really beautiful. It's as if the entire Milky Way is in front of you. Like it? Ryan raised a bad smile. When you become the hostess here, you can watch it whenever you want. Punlo glared at Zaya. Rather than thinking about this, you should grow up quickly, 12-year-old boy. Brat. Zaya was so angry that I couldn't get it right. I can still grow for many years. In the future, I will let you know that I am not small. Chapter 103 is a bit square. The students at Hogwarts were surprised to find that their little son Zaya had disappeared. According to Professor Snape's gloomy explanation, Zaya took 3 days off. It doesn't matter, mainly because Punlo also disappeared for 3 days. And suddenly some lace news spread. Hermione, why are you so stern? Ryan is not here. I can only count on you for the problems I encountered with my homework. Hermione in the Gryffindor lounge didn't look up and continued to deal with the pile of books in front of her. Ron whispered, is it because of Char? Don't mention him. Although Hermione's tone was angry and firm, there was an indescribable grievance. Suddenly Harry and Ron exchanged glances, giving each other a look. Of course Hermione was very angry. Originally, people worked so hard to find the information about the basilisk in the library, and they were going to tell Char and Harry, but as soon as they came back, they heard that Sister Punlo and Char were together. Sure enough, my intuition was right. I saw that the two of them were not right. Of course, this is not enough. It didn't take long for Xer's house elf Siphon to send a letter of leave. Hermione was worried about whether she had encountered an accident, but unexpectedly, Punlo also no see you. So are you guys out for your honeymoon? Thinking of this, Hermione became more and more angry, and the quill in her hand wrote more and more about herself. It's not that you are with Punlo Senpai, but you have to prepare me a little bit. Hermione felt a lot of sadness, but she didn't know how to deal with it. As for Ryan, she has no time to spare. Although she really wants to do something shameful with Punlo, the two of them are still too young. On the surface, it really counts as a 3-day dog food honeymoon period, but Zaya took the time to go to the Ministry of Magic to Confused. Fudge threw him a box containing the wreckage of the Time Turner. Sorry Secretary Connolly, this converter seems a little fragile. It can't stand my magic. Fudge waved his hand indifferently. This is originally a controlled item. As long as you don't use it to do bad things, it will be damaged. It's just that you gave the Ministry of Magic assistance before. Don't worry, although the converter is broken, I have achieved my goal and I am very satisfied with this collaboration. Ryan's Hong took out a check again. The amount is still 100,000. There may be many places where we need to ask Minister Conley for help in the future, and I hope to be a little more accommodating at that time. Fudge's face was very good, and his smile was almost wrinkled into a chrysanthemum. Mr. Ambrosius, don't worry, you are an outstanding talent in our magical world. As long as you don't violate the corresponding laws, I will help you as much as possible. Ryan nodded. Thank you very much. Going to the Ministry of Magic was a minor episode. In the rest of the time, Char was really with Penelope. He took her to travel all over Notting Island and Lake Windermere, and at the same time many parts of Star Castle are shown to Punlo. This made the elf ciphers both surprised and relieved. Many times he held the last photo of Char's parents with tears in his eyes. Days passed quickly, and the relationship between Ryan and Punlo heated up quickly, as if they had been together for many years, sweet and warm. Probably the only pity was that because of their age, the last layer of relationship did not break through. Going back to Hogwarts soon, nervous? Char looked at Punlo with a smile. Although I have already asked us for leave, many people should know that you and I ran away. Pennet forced himself to remain calm. It's better. And let those little girls who are obsessed with you every day grow snacks. Char was a little dumbfounded, and then the two returned to the Hogwarts castle with Floo powder. Knowing that Ryan, who had been missing for 3 days, finally came back with Punlo, the student's spirit of gossip suddenly burned. It's nothing more than whether Punlo is really with Char or something. Ryan smiled and affirmed the content of their gossip. I don't know how many people cast a jealous look at Punlo, especially girls. Who would have thought that an ordinary girl with an ordinary background and both mole parents could become the couple of the best boys at Hogwarts? Some snobbish girls seem to have seen countless wealth flowing towards Punlo, with the exception of one person, and Ryanya was a little nervous when facing this person. This person was Hermione. Speaking of which, when Cha first approached Hermione, she just liked the girl in the original book, who was a little emotional, but she worked hard. So the love for Hermione is also growing stronger. It's just that Punlo's appearance made Ryanya want to get close, not wanting to let others get her, so Punlo was the first to establish a relationship with Ryanya in the end. But one thing is certain, whether it's Hermione or Punlo, whichever of them encounters an unexpected event, Cha will definitely be crazy about it. On weekends, Cha was sitting in a remote corner of the library, and Hermione was sitting opposite him. The two were silent, but the scene was unusually harmonious. Because they spent so many days together like this, at that time Hermione always had a sparkling light in her eyes, and she seemed to be admiring and looking forward to staying by Cha's side. Shia. Hermione, who was the first to break the silence, said, "Congratulations on finding the girl you like." Ryanda was silent for a few seconds. "Thank you." "You." Hermione bit her lip. "Don't you have anything to say to me?" Ryan nodded. "Yes." Hermione didn't answer, just looked at Zaya silently. "It was my fault that I left suddenly without telling you." Hermione bit her lip a little tighter, her eyes moist for some reason. "Is that so?" "Hermione, you, don't cry." Immediately Ryan's heart twitched, and she said with some distress, "If you have any dissatisfaction with me, just say it." Hermione turned her head and said angrily, "Number." "Say it." I said no. "Okay, how do you know about girls?" A gentle voice came from beside the two of them, and Punlo was beside him at some point. "Cha, go and do your own business first. I'll talk to Miss Granger." "No, I'm fine." Ryan glanced at Punlo, she glared at Ryan lightly, clearly telling him to leave quickly. "Well, the girl's mind is difficult to understand." Hermione also stared at Punlo, she said, "I also want to have a good conversation with my senior." Cha, who has never been afraid of the basilisk, feels a chill behind her. It feels a bit square. Chapter 104. Another year. Ryan said that he had absolutely no idea what Hermione and Punlo were talking about, but he waited outside for at least an hour, and Punlo walked out with a smile on his face. "Hey, your little fangirl, I've solved it for you." Punlo took Ryan's arm and said, "But if you dare to be sorry to me, you have to figure out the consequences." Ryan, oh question mark. "So, what the hell happened?" Back to Hermione. Hermione seemed very energetic, her eyes were full of vitality, she firmly clenched her fist. "I will never lose to you." Ryanya continued to be confused. "What did Punlo tell you?" Hermione turned her head and said in a faltering tone, "Don't worry about it." Well, both sides can't be bothered. However, the haze of Hogwarts in the past few days has also been completely swept away. After Cha came back, he had a chat with Dumbledore, and explained the two timelines to Dumbledore. So Dumbledore, after admiring Cha's behavior, elaborated on Riddle's diary, Basilisk, and Horcrux to the teachers, which made the teachers in the school both startled and frightened. On the other hand, Dumbledore immediately and happily announced to everyone that the source of the students being attacked, the monster Cha in the secret room, has been eliminated, and the initiator is the powerful black magic left by the predecessors, hanging in everyone's hearts. The stone also fell. Only then did Harry understand why Cha would ask him about the open Parseltongue saying, and he had already thought about his feelings, and why was his invisibility cloak in Cha's place. Cha gave you Harry a grateful look. If it wasn't for its help, I might be in big trouble. Harry can only scratch his head at this, although it is not very clear why, but it is always good to help his friends. At the end of the semester, the cultivation of mandrakes is also fully mature. In Snape, the Devil under the personal preparation of Master Yao, an extremely high-quality release potion was prepared. After paying the potion, the petrified students could recover as long as they took more rest. Of course, it won't be long, so they can still attend the year-end wrap-up banquet. Both Justin from Hufflepuff and Colin from Gryffindor expressed their sincere thanks to Char, while students who mistook Harry for Slytherin's heir also apologized to Harry. Ravenclaw also largely forgave Ron's previous reckless behavior. After all, he couldn't help being affected by black magic. Rational and wise little eagles will not have persistent prejudice because of simple appearances. It was another year's summary meeting, and all the students at Hogwarts, which had been bustling in the past, were in the hall, and the banquet continued until late. It was interesting that Quinlo or Hermione, who were supposed to be sitting beside Char tonight, actually sat next to each other, watching the two beautiful girls turn red from alcohol, whispering something in their ears. This scene is quite interesting. Of course, the turmoil at Hogwarts has also detected many other things. For example, some students who spread negative comments behind their backs have been quietly sent back. Hogwarts' meaning is obvious: we will not discriminate against any wizard's education. But we also do not accept that any one student has too much conspiracy against their own academy. As for the little snakes who were shattered by the pure blood theory, they were half regretful and half glad. It was thanks to them that they obeyed Ryan's words, and did not do anything extreme because of the attack of the basilisk, or verbally attacked students from other colleges. Therefore, the children of pure-blood nobles who are safe and sound like Malfoy are very active in helping Zaya to block over enthusiastic classmates. This is probably the busiest time of the Snake Courtyard. So, please allow me to say something when the banquet is here. Dumbledore in the main seat clapped his hands, and his loud voice spread throughout the auditorium. First of all, I need to thank everyone again. Your trust has made the school successfully survive a crisis that may collapse. Now everything has been resolved, Hogwarts will still be your warm home. Dumbledore's words resonated with many students below. If many students did not believe that Dumbledore believed in Hogwarts, when the second attack occurred, Hogwarts might have faced countless students leaving the school. Dilemma. Second, I think we need to give some awards and recognition to students who have excelled during the year. Miss Hermione Granger, she used her wisdom to combine the clues of the book and reality, and accurately deduced the monster in the secret room. This work has saved us a great burden. Therefore, I will reward her 100%. Mr. Harry Potter, he used his talent to help Ryan open the secret room, so Mr. Ambrosius can focus all his energy on fighting monsters. This kind of friendship and trust is worth learning from all of us, so, Mr. Potter will also reward 100%. Suddenly, Gryffindor burst into enthusiastic cheers. In fact, the reason why Hermione was killed in the library was because she herself analyzed what the monster in the secret room was, and if Harry didn't tell Charles Parseltongue, then he would face it. For the entrance defense that may have been placed by Salazar Slytherin himself, Char may not be able to forcibly break through. Although the Lion House was in high spirits and the rest of the students applauded enthusiastically, everyone was not very excited because they knew that the main event was far from coming. There was a smile in Dumbledore's eyes. In addition, Mr. Chira Ambrosius, he defeated the monster in the secret room with excellent skills, and at the same time he stabilized the internal environment of his own academy very well. His bravery and talent made the school stable again, so we'll give him 1 or 250 points. Puff Ryan gushed out a mouthful of old blood. Why did he choose the number 250? Of course, Ryan still stood up and bowed to the enthusiastic students, because at this time, the applause and cheers had reached its peak. Quinlo and Hermione, who were sitting together, looked at Ryan with blurred eyes, with arrogance and pride at the corners of their mouths. Proud smile. Then I think that our ownership of the Academy Cup this year also has a result. Dumbledore winked mischievously. This time, let's talk directly with color. I saw him clapping his hands. The hall where the Hogwarts school flag was originally hung slightly swayed, and the blue flag and silver snake belonging to Slytherin rendered the entire hall. So this year, it's Slytherin who won the House Cup. This time, except for the little snakes who were very happy, the rest of the Academy's mood was a little loose. Because this is simply incomparable. even if you haven't been selected yet. You know how many points Slytherin's scoring madman has scored for his own academy now. Slytherin's points are almost more than the 3 academies combined. Chapter 105, the end of the second grade. The end of this volume. With some words, a satisfied smile appeared on Snape's face. The dean of any academy would never reject a student like Char. As for Professor McGonagall and Professor Flitwick, they can only be more regretful. Of course, they will still congratulate Snape in a friendly way. And Dumbledore's next news will make Snape and many teachers more satisfied. In addition to this, I would like to announce one regret. Mr. Gidlow, our defense against the dark arts teacher, has submitted his resignation to me because he intends to restudy and improve his strength. So, you are going to say goodbye to your defense against the dark arts teacher. Many of the students who had just quieted down whistled. It seemed that they had endured Gildello for a long time, and Snape was even more so. Taking the lead in applauding, it seems that he has been dissatisfied with Gilderoy for a long time, and even some other professors have applauded. Although Dumbledore said that Gilderoy submitted his resignation, it was actually Dumbledore who kicked him after Char repeatedly complained. Of course, out of friendliness, Dumbledore still left a little sympathy for Gidlow, but Gidlow himself is no longer in school. It is estimated that his performance in many shows made him a liar and parallel import wizard. A very good year. There are setbacks and joys, and there are gains and growth. Dumbledore raised the gold cup in his hand. He said, "Finally, let's toast together, wishing our classmates good health and happy growth, and wishing everyone a better next year. So, gentlemen, get up and drink together." After the year-end banquet, the rest of the classes were spent casually, while Ryan discussed and exchanged some academic issues with the professors. And the long summer vacation was coming. When it comes to summer vacation, the thing that gives Ryan a headache comes. Penelow's parents still haven't contacted her, and it seems that the relationship has not eased. So Ryan simply asked Penelope to move to Star Castle and live with him, which immediately attracted the attention of the two ladies. Penelope said that he would be very unaccustomed to living alone in such a big castle, and she was a little worried that Char would do bad things to her. Although Penelope never planned to refuse, it seemed that he did not want to do it now. And Hermione and Penelope surprisingly kept the same idea, and they agreed that Penelope would not live in Star Castle. Of course, Hermione said that Char would continue to come to London to play. So in the end, Ryan still had to go back to the Star Fort by himself, so he didn't use Floo fans or disappear, but flew back in his own wind carriage. And Penelope chose to return to the wizard-themed store in Diagon Alley to spend his summer vacation. In order to avoid Penelope's uncomfortable life, Zaya directly spent a lot of money on the luxury upgrade of the wizard-themed store. Not only did the store double the size of the store, but Penelope's room even applied a traceless expansion spell. The interior space and the facilities are very complete. Of course, if it wasn't for Penelope's strong refusal to get those things that are too expensive, Ryan might have arranged for her directly according to the things of Star Castle. Because Penelope has a high sense of reason, even though the two have established a relationship and are still in love, Penelope still hopes that Ryan can maintain a slightly normal attitude. Making it too exaggerated will make Penelope a little embarrassing. After all, the two are just lovers, not husband and wife. This summer, Zaya has had a very fulfilling time. While continuing to improve his magic level, he took time to see Penelope and Hermione. Hermione seems to be interested in competing with Penelope, and she seems to have found her niche. During the summer vacation, she published and submitted a number of practical magic papers, which were well received by many publishers. It's a pity that there are no magic newspapers that are too monotonous, so these works of Hermione can only be published in the Ambrosius Family Bookstore, which also makes Ryan move other thoughts. Time passes, the years are quiet, the temperature in summer makes people a little restless, and after the summer vacation, it will be a brand new year for Char. The whole book is finished. Of course this is impossible. 23,333. Writing here about the first two Harry Potter books is officially over. There are a lot of questions in it. There are also many shortcomings. and even many common sense mistakes have been criticized and corrected by many enthusiastic readers. It's still the same sentence: it's okay to be reasonable in the face. It's very resistant to beating. Now there are not too many HP fanfiction novels. On the one hand, most people watch movies, and on the other hand, the HP series plots are prone to high overlap. So I'm thinking about how to show you a different HP world, and that creates all kinds of problems. In fact, it can be seen from the title of this book that the world of HP is the beginning, but it is definitely not the end. I want to start with HP, and then bring such a seemingly elegant and noble, but gentle and funny guy to something else. The world, be an unusual master. In the past few days, I have been working overtime because of some work reasons, so there are time fluctuations in the update. For example, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning when I wrote these words, and I had to get up and go to work around 7 in the morning. After all, I had to have a meal. At present, I still have a high enthusiasm for this book. Although some people criticize me and some people complain, I still want to continue writing. The update rate of 5 chapters a day is not slow. After careful calculation, the number of words in each day is about 12,000 words. It's a pity that time is limited, people can't be separated, and energy is limited, so I'm imagining when I put it on the shelves, I couldn't get it to write nearly 20 chapters in one go. I believe that there will be many loyal HP viewers who read this book. In fact, I am just a fan of HP just like you. The difference is that I use words to describe the ye world of HP constructed and imagined in my mind. It is true that my skills are definitely not in place. After all, my time in Fellow is too short, and I don't know how to create and how to write novels that everyone is satisfied with. After all, I have only been a reader for a long time. I always want to take out all the things in my stomach, but I have to take into account everyone's preferences and my own creative ability. Let me continue to be lazy when I write this. Even if I die suddenly tomorrow, I will definitely write 5 chapters. I will post the chapter in the morning later. I can't stand it anymore, and it will be 3 a.m. if I continue to write. In a nutshell, I really want to write this book well, and I am very grateful to everyone for their support and warm suggestions during this time. I have really gained a lot. From the next volume, it will be Azkaban. In order to make it easier for everyone to read, I will divide the number of volumes according to the plot. Finally, I hope to see the kindness of the big guys in the second half. This is the first time that I have had a half chapter, and I don't want to, spare me.